أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The period before the advent of Islam was called the period of Jahiliyyah, or literally the age of ignorance. And it was indeed a time of ignorance. People were illiterate, they didn't read, they didn't write. Historians mention that during the days of Jahiliyyah and before the advent of Islam, only 17 people knew how to read and write, and their names have been recorded in history. Yani it's to the point that those who read and write, their names are recorded in history. That's how little they were. The vast majority of the people did not know how to read and write. They were illiterate. There were no schools, there were no colleges, there was no such thing as seeking an education. Yes, they enjoyed poetry. That's one of the few things that they enjoyed. They enjoyed poetry. And sometimes they would speak in poetry. They would communicate in poetry. And they had absolutely no aim and no goal in life other than to eat and drink and sleep under the shade. They asked a pagan Arab, "Now, what is your goal in life?" This is exactly what he said: that I'd like to sleep under the shade, full, not hungry and not thirsty. Thus, the Arab during the days of Jahiliyyah, during the period of ignorance, they lived like animals in the jungle. No aim in life, no objective, no education, no sense of direction. Their only goal is to be full, to eat and drink. And similar to animals living in the jungle, the Arab during the days of Jahiliyyah, they would kill, they would murder, they would massacre. The strong would eat the weak. They lived with the philosophy of the strong eats the weak. It's the survival of the fittest. Whoever can kill the most, steal the most, he'd live. But if you're weak, you don't do these things, you're not going to survive. Incidentally, Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, who was a governor of Iraq for a while, during the days of Imam Zain al-Abidin, Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi was himself a notorious mass murderer who killed thousands of people. They say that his appetizer wasn't to eat a salad or a bowl of soup, but to see people get killed in front of him, he'd develop an appetite for food. This was Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. Anyhow, one day Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi was having dinner, and he had people over for dinner. Among the people was an old Arab man sitting, having dinner with him. On the dinner table, there were two doves, two barbecued doves. The old man, he saw these two doves, he started laughing. Al-Hajjaj told him, "What are you laughing about?" He said, "Nothing, I just remembered a story from a long time ago." He said, "What's the story?" He said, "Well, when I was young, I would stand in the middle of the desert and I would see caravans pass by in the desert. I would hide And then I would come out, I would choose one of these merchants that's passing by in the middle of the desert. I would steal his wealth, and then I would kill him. One day I stopped this man, I stole all of his money, and I was about to kill him, but he started begging for his life. He begged that I don't kill him. I said, no, I have to kill you. Because if I don't kill you, you're going to go back, you're going to call your friends, your cousins, your tribe, and you're going to come after me. So I'm just going to have to kill you. He said, but please, I have a wife, I have children. I have little children, don't make them orphans. He said, I must. Finally, when he saw that he has no other choice in front of him but death, when he lay to the ground, there was a tree, or there was probably a tree, and there were 2 doves sitting on that tree. He started speaking to the doves. He said, "Oh doves, bear witness that I am being killed innocently." He said, I started laughing at him. I said, these doves don't understand what you're saying. How can these 2 doves bear witness? Al-Hajjaj said, by God, they just bore witness. You just testified on your own by seeing these doves. Because these doves did become a cause for you to testify and to admit. And he asked his servants to cut off his head, and they killed him. This is how they were. This is how they lived. The strong ate the weak. The strong killed the weak. This was their philosophy. There were no laws, there were no rules. And one of the very important aspects during the days of ignorance, during the days of Jahiliyyah, was that their loyalty was to their tribe. All of their loyalty was to the head of the tribe. There were no governments, there was no emperor, there was no king, there was no religious leader. Their loyalty was to the head of the tribe. Whatever the tribesman, the head of the tribe, said, they had to execute. And at many times, there were feuds between certain tribes. Certain tribes would fight and kill one another. Among these tribes were the 2 main tribes of Medina called Al-Aws and Al-Khazraj. These 2 tribes fought for decades. And the final battle that took place between Al-Aws and Al-Khazraj, these 2 main tribes in Medina, was 6 years before the migration of Rasulullah from Mecca to Medina. And that battle was called Yawma Bu'ath. And this battle was the reason for the conversion of these 2 tribes into Islam. Because they were in Medina, but back then it wasn't called Medina, it was called Yathrib. A member of Aws and a member of Khazraj came to Mecca, came to ask for Quraysh for some support. They came to Masjid al-Haram, but instead of meeting with Quraysh, they came across whom? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. They sat with him, they started talking to him, they debated him. All of a sudden they discovered that this man is a prophet. And he helped guide these 2 men that represented Al-Aws and Al-Khazraj. They came back to Yathrib, they told their people about Rasulullah, and slowly they started converting. The 6 years before the migration of Rasulullah, many of them had already converted into Islam. Yet there was still some tension. There was tension between Al-Aws and Al-Khazraj. And then the Islamic revolution came. Rasulullah was sent as a messenger. Islam came and abolished many of the values and traditions that were held by the Arab during the days of ignorance. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Islam came and abolished the idea that it's okay to remain illiterate. Islam came and said that seeking knowledge, seeking an education is mandatory upon every Muslim man and woman. Not just men, but even women. Rasulullah stated, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ وَمُسْلِمٍ. The idea of illiteracy was abolished starting from the first day that Islam was revealed. People started seeking education. In fact, Rasulullah made his masjid a place of education, a place of learning. It wasn't just a place of worship, a place for salah and recitation of Quran. No. You would enter the masjid and you would find people learning, studying, seeking knowledge inside the masjid. This is one. Number two, Rasulullah stopped the idea of killing. That the strong eats the weak. That the strong kills the weak. Absolutely. No longer. Killing is haram in Islam. وَمَنْ قَتَلَ نَفْسًا بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ أَوْ فَسَادًا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. He who kills one life innocently, that life is innocent, it's as if he's killed the entire human race. And one of the fundamental pillars that Islam established, Islam told these pagan Arab during the days of Jahiliyyah, who killed one another, who fought one another, who competed against one another, Islam came and told them that you are all brothers. That you are all brothers. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ أَخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. Truly, all believers are brothers. And another verse in the Holy Quran, وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءً فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. Allah reminds these Arab later on, He says, remember when you were enemies? Remember when you used to kill each other? Remember when there was nothing but bloodshed in between amongst you? But Allah brought you together. Allah brought your hearts together. And out of the blessing of Allah, you became brothers. The Quran, in at least two places, stresses and emphasizes that believers are brothers. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ أَخْوَةٌ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. Now, what does it mean that believers are brothers? What does it mean that believers are brothers and sisters? It has two meanings. وَصَلَّى عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِ مُحَمَّدٍ. Number one, it means that in Islam there is no racial barriers. In Islam, there are no color barriers. It doesn't matter what language you speak, or what country you come from, what nationality you are, everyone's the same. Everyone is our brothers and sisters. To say that everyone is a brother and sister, there's no difference between brothers and sisters. Parents do not differentiate between brothers and sisters. They are all the same. I remember once my mother was asked, who is your favorite son? And we were all there, all six of us were there. She was asked, who is your favorite son? Of course, I was hoping she'd say me, but she didn't. She gave a very beautiful answer that till today it remained in my mind. She said, can you differentiate between your fingers? If you were to ask me, which finger is your favorite finger? Or if you were told we have to cut one finger off, which finger would you cut? I mean, unless you're weird, I don't think you have a favorite finger. All your fingers are supposed to be the same. She said, my children are the same. My sons are all the same to me. I can't differentiate between any of them. When Islam says that Muslims and believers are brothers and sisters, it's the same. That they're all the same. No matter what language they speak, no matter what nationality they come from, they are all the same. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hujurat says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِندَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The most noble of you, O humans, or not Quraysh, or not the Arab, or not the blonde, blue-eyed. No. the most noble and honorable and dignified of you is the one who's closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is the one who has the most amount of piety. This is the honor. This is the honor. The honor is whoever obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have a chosen people. Allah doesn't have a chosen race or a chosen nationality. Absolutely not. And scholars say that this verse, Ya ayyuhan nas inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, the reason of revelation was as follows. After the conquest of Mecca, when Rasulullah went from Medina back to Mecca 2 years before his death, after the conquest of Mecca or during the conquest of Mecca, Rasulullah asked his mu'adhin Bilal al-Habashi to go on top of the Kaaba and say the adhan. Some of the Sahaba were shocked. Is this really happening? That a black person like Bilal is going to go on top of the Kaaba and say the adhan? One of the companions of Rasulullah was by the name of Utab ibn Usayd. He says that, it is recorded that he said, thank God my father is dead and he didn't see this day. Thank God that my father did not live to see this day that a black man stands on top of the Kaaba and he says the adhan. Al-Harith ibn Hisham, another well-known companion of Rasulullah, said that couldn't Rasulullah find anyone else other than this black crow to get on top of the Kaaba? Immediately Allah revealed this verse. That, oh you people, don't think that color is what gets you closer to Allah. Nobility and honor and dignity does not come from color. It does not come from race. It does not come from language. It comes from whoever is closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though this seems as a very simple idea, that yes, we're all equal. But till today, you see racial barriers in every community that you go to. Don't go to this mosque because these mosques are from this country. Don't go to that place because this place, people from this country go to that place and they pray in them. No matter how much we say that Muslims are equal, yet this bigotry and prejudice and discrimination exists in every single community. Don't give your daughter to this race because he's not from us. He's not from our country. Not just he's not from our country, he's not from my village. This exists, doesn't it? Not exist. Especially when it comes to marriage. Especially when a young man and a young woman have decided to get married, but their parents say no because of ethnicity, because of nationality, because of a different race or a different kind of passport. Are these truly Islamic teachings? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, from day one, he abolished all racial barriers, in which he said, "Ala wa innakum, ala innakum min Adam wa Adamu min turab." You're all the children of Adam. Don't forget. You all have the same father who's Adam and the same mother who's Eve. And Adam is from where? Wa Adamu min turab. And Adam is from dust. Don't think you're superior. Don't let ignorance, or rather arrogance, or maybe even both, ignorance and arrogance, get to you and reach your head. In another hadith, he said, إِنَّ النَّاسَ مِنْ عَهْدِ آدَمٍ إِلَى يَوْمِنَا هَذَا مِثْلُ أَسْنَانِ الْمِشْطِ لَا فَضْلَ لِعَرَبِيٍّ عَلَى عَجَمِيٍّ وَلَا الْأَحْمَرَ عَلَى الْأَسْوَدِ إِلَّا بِالتَّقْوَى. He says, from the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, till today, all human beings are the same. Just like the strings of a comb. Not the strings, but the, what do you call it? The spikes of a comb. They're all the same. They're all equal. And Allah has not favored an Arab over a non-Arab. Absolutely not. In another hadith, he stated, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنظُرُ إِلَىٰ أَحْسَابِكُمْ وَلَا إِلَىٰ أَنْسَابِكُمْ وَلَا إِلَىٰ أَجْسَادِكُمْ وَلَا إِلَىٰ أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَإِنَّمَا يَنظُرُ إِلَىٰ قُلُوبِكُمْ. Allah does not look to your bodies, does not look to your color, does not look to your race, does not look to your lineage, and he doesn't look to your cash and bank accounts, but he looks to your heart. What matters is the heart. That is why you'd enter the masjid of Rasulullah and you would see all sorts of colors, with all sorts of races and all sorts of languages, all standing equally behind Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What shocked Quraysh was that Quraysh had slaves. Many of them, they had black slaves. They were shocked. How is it that Rasulullah could say that the slave owner and the slave are equal? How is this possible? Ya Rasulullah did it. Ya Rasulullah and his companions and his followers. Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali had lots of companions. And he had lots of close students. But his most favorite student and follower and companion was a black man by the name of Maytham al-Tammar. Maytham al-Tammar, who was illiterate, he was black, yet to Imam Ali he was his most favorite companion. And he was his most knowledgeable companion. The knowledge that Imam Ali gave to Maytham al-Tammar, he didn't give it to his own cousin, Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas, who scholars call him Habr al-Ummah, the scholar of this nation, was only a student when compared to Maytham al-Tammar. Maytham al-Tammar had a lot more knowledge than Ibn Abbas. Among the knowledge that Imam Ali had given to Maytham al-Tammar, ilm al-balaya wal-manaya. Maytham al-Tammar could tell who's going to die, where, and when. This was a special knowledge given to him by Imam Ali alayhi salam. He knew people's fates. When are people going to die and where are people going to die? Inside the masjid, sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Inside the masjid of Rasulullah, there's a corner called As-Suffa. As-Suffa was a corner for the homeless, for anyone who didn't have a home, didn't have any shelter. They came and they slept inside the masjid. And by the way, the masjid of Rasulullah served a lot of functions. It had various corners. One of them, we'll talk about this more tomorrow, inshallah. One of the corners of the masjid was a shelter, a home for the homeless. One of the men that slept in this corner, As-Suffa, was a man by the name of Julaibib. Julaibib was black. He was from Yamama. He was very poor. He didn't own a house. He slept in the Suffa. Rasulullah would pass by. He would see Julaibib sitting by himself. He's not married. He didn't have children. Rasulullah felt bad for him. Told him, Ya Julaibib, one day you will have a house of your own. And you will have a family of your own. You'll have a wife and children of your own. Julaibib started laughing. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm a black man from Yamama. Who's going to give me their daughter? When am I going to get married? Who's going to give me their daughter and I'll get married? Where am I going to get a house from? Rasulullah told him, Ya Julaibib, you don't have faith in Allah? You don't have hope in Allah? And of course they'll give you. And you will get married from here, from the city of Medina. Ya Julaibib, Allah has brought down these racial barriers. There is no discrimination. Everyone in the eyes of Allah is the same. Doesn't matter what color you are. He said, in fact, get up, get up. Julaibib got up. He said, I want you to go to the house of a man by the name of Ziyad ibn Labid. He has a young daughter by the name of Al-Dhulfa. You go to Ziyad and you tell him that Rasulullah sent me to you to propose to your daughter. And tell him that Rasulullah requests from you that you give me your daughter. Told him, Ya Rasulullah, are you sure? This is not going to backfire? Rasulullah told him, go. You have my blessing. I'm ordering you to go. Julaibib, of course, being sent by Rasulullah, had a lot of self-confidence. He went, he knocked at the door of Ziyad ibn Labid. He welcomed him home. He said, what can I do for you? He said, I have a message for you from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Rasulullah asks that you give me your daughter in marriage. You give me your daughter's hand in marriage. Ziyad said, I'm honored that you carry a message from Rasulullah. And I'm honored that you're coming from Rasulullah. However, our custom is that we give our daughters to the people from our city, from our village. The man was from the Ansar, he was from the natives. He was a native of Medina. He said, we give our daughters to our own people, our cousins, our relatives. So, I'm sorry. I'm honored that Rasulullah has sent you, but I cannot. Julaibib was very disappointed. He said, by God, these are not the teachings. This is not the teachings of Rasulullah. He got up and he left. His daughter, Ad-Dhulfa, apparently she was eavesdropping. She called her father. She said, what did this man want? He said, he wanted to marry you. She said, Rasulullah has sent him to marry you. She said, and what did you tell him? He said, of course I said no. He said, but didn't you hear what he said? Rasulullah has sent him. That means you didn't just say no to Julaibib. You said no to whom? To Rasulullah. He said, well, what should I do? She said, call him back. Ziyad rushed out. He called Julaibib. He called him back. He told him, come here, sit down. Let me go and have a word with Rasulullah. Ziyad went to Rasulullah. He said, is this true? He said, of course this is true. Of course I said, what, you think it's a joke? You think it's April Fool's? Of course I sent Julaibib. Give him your daughter. Ziyad came back. He spoke to his daughter, and his daughter, Ad-Dhulfa, who they say was very attractive, she agreed. She said, as long as Rasulullah wants me to marry him, I'll marry him. As long as I have the blessings of Rasulullah, I know that this marriage will be a blessed marriage. I'll marry him. And indeed, they got married. They had their wedding. Rasulullah performed the marriage ceremony, and they married. But what's interesting is that the night of the wedding passed. The next day, the woman in the village, the old woman in the village, they came to Ad-Dhulfa and they said, Khob, tell us what happened. Spill the beans. And this is a custom, unfortunately, in our culture. The old, annoying woman, they come to the poor young lady who's just been married the last night, and they want, the 411. Play by play. So Dhulfa, of course, was very shy. She said, but to be honest, nothing happened. Nothing happened? She said, nothing happened. How? She said, as soon as it was sunset, Julaibib came in the house. He went to a corner of the house. He put his sajada and he started praying all the way till dawn. Ajib. They said, well, let's wait till the second night. The second night, they came the next day. They asked Ad-Dhulfa. She said, guess what? It's the same story. He didn't come anywhere near me, and he was praying all night long. The woman, they said, you know what? We have to go and tell your father. This is not right. Maybe there's something wrong with him. She said, no, don't rush. The third day, they came back, the nosy old ladies again, and they discovered that it's the same thing. He hasn't even gotten close to her. They said, khalas, we need to tell your father. They went and they told her father, Ziyad. Ziyad in return went and told Rasulullah. He said, Ya Rasulullah, you told me to give my daughter to Julaibib, but for the past 3 nights, he's been spending the whole night in worship. Rasulullah said, don't worry, I'll fix it. He came to Julaibib. He said, Julaibib, what's wrong with you? You have a beautiful young wife and you've been married for 3 nights, but I've discovered that you haven't even gotten close to her. Are you okay? And there's nothing wrong? I said, Ya Rasulullah, there's nothing wrong. Are you sure? Are you sure you even have inclinations? He said, yes, Ya Rasulullah. In fact, I have a lot of inclinations. I said, then what's the problem? He said, Ya Rasulullah, I looked at my life. In my entire life, I haven't had a house, but you provided me with a house. I haven't had a roof over my head, but you provided me with a roof over my head. I didn't have a wife, now I have a wife. So I decided, shouldn't I be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I decided that the first 3 nights of my wedding, I spend it in worship to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But don't worry, the next night I will make you proud. And they did, alhamdulillah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is one meaning of all Muslims and mu'mineen are brothers. That they're all equal. That there are no barriers in Islam. This was the first meaning. The second meaning is that Muslims are united. All Muslims and believers are one family. And they're united as if they're in the same family. And they need to stand side by side like one family. You see, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa first came to Medina and he introduced Islam to the people of Medina, to the people of Yathrib, there was hostility. There was fighting. And there was a lot of bloodshed in between them. Now, Islam is a newborn religion. It's very young, and Rasulullah wants it to be successful. Rasulullah wanted Islam to spread in the Arabian Peninsula. How? To make everyone feel like they're brothers. This is the only way. But if everyone wants to compete, if this guy wants to compete with this guy wants to kill that guy, they want to kill and murder and steal and compete with one another. What sort of religion is this? How is this religion going to spread? And even between the Muhajirin and Ansar, Rasulullah came with a group of Muhajirin, the migrants from Mecca to Medina. They arrived to Medina. Medina had natives, the Ansar. There was tension. There was tension between the Muhajirin and Ansar. Rasulullah needed a way to fix this issue, to remove the tension, to make everyone brothers, to get everyone united. Thus, on the 12th day of Ramadan, year 2 after Hijrah, a day like tomorrow, Rasulullah established something called the Islamic Brotherhood. Rasulullah took a man from the Ansar and a man from the Muhajirin and he made them into brothers. He said, you two are brothers. Each man from the Muhajirin and a man from the Ansar, Rasulullah made them into brothers. He told them, you will act like brothers. It's as if you are biological brothers. This is what happened on a day like tomorrow, the 12th of Ramadan. And indeed, they became brothers. They shared each other's wealth, lands, money. The problem is these Muhajirin, when they left Mecca, they left everything. Their business, their lands, their homes, their wealth. Yet the Ansar, they welcomed them. They shared their wealth with them. They gave them their homes, their lands. In fact, historians even mention that there was a man from the Ansar by the name of Sa'd ibn al-Rabi'. His brother, his Muhajiri brother was Abdurrahman ibn Auf. He told him, listen, you left your wife and children in Mecca. I have 2 wives. If you want, I'll divorce one of them and you can marry her. Abdurrahman said, no, thank you. You could keep your wife. But this happened. To this point that they're willing to divorce his wife and give it to his brother. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised Al-Ansar for this. He praised them for this selflessness, for welcoming the Muhajirin into their land and into their city. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises them. He says, وَالَّذِينَ تَبَوَّأُوا الْدَارَ وَالْإِيمَانَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ يُحِبُّونَ مَنْ هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَا يَجِدُونَ فِي صُدُورِهِمْ حَاجَةً مِمَّا أُوتُوا وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. Allah tells the Ansar that you are a group of people with faith, with religion. You don't mind that people are migrating to you and you share your wealth with them. Allah praises them. And indeed, their brotherhood became very strong. And this is how Islam spread, my dear friends. Islam spread because of this brotherhood that Rasulullah instituted between Muslims. There are some that say Islam spread by the sword because Islam waged so many battles and wars and it spread. This is not the reason. Some say Islam spread because it allows polygamy. Muslim men could marry lots of women, bring lots of children, and this is how it expanded. This is not the reason, my dear friends. Islam spread, one of the main reasons is because of Islamic brotherhood. These Muslims felt that they are one family. One family. They treated each other as one family. They say that in one of the battles of Islam, a soldier fell. He was about to die. They went to him. He wanted water. He said, "Give me some water." They brought him some water. This falling soldier, or this fallen soldier, noticed that there's another soldier who had also fallen, who also wanted water. He said, "No, I will not drink the water. Take it to my fellow Muslim brother." They took the water to him. He saw a third fallen soldier. He said, "I won't drink before the third." They went to the third. They found him dead. They came back to the second. They saw him, he had died. They came back to the first. He had already died as well. This was Islamic history. This is how Islam was built. This is the unity among Muslims that existed before. They saw each other as brothers. This is the loyalty between them. And this is the sacrifice between them. They were willing to sacrifice their lives for each other. But look at Muslims today. Muslims today, they don't need anyone to tell them to kill each other. They're good in doing that by themselves. Look at what's happening in the Middle East. Take Syria. Look at the atrocities that are being committed in Syria. Syria was a stable country, a peaceful country. Look today, in every suburb, in every province in Syria, there's massacres going on. And of course, this is something normal. When Saudi money and Qatari money is being fueled in the country, inspiring the terrorists to kill their own natives, of course this is going to happen. Where's the unity among Muslims today? Where's this brotherhood among Muslims today? A well-known politician recently had stated that the Shia, followers of Ahlul Bayt, are worse than Jews. He's willing to make peace with Jews, but not followers of Ahlul Bayt. Is this what Islam calls for? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And in order to support and emphasize this concept, the concept of Islamic brotherhood, Islam has several teachings. Islam has several teachings to show us, to emphasize and to concentrate on the concept of Islamic brotherhood. For example, number one, Islam says if you want to make a dua, if you want to say a dua and a supplication, if you want that dua to be accepted, mention 40 of your Muslim brothers and sisters before you, and Allah will answer your dua. A hadith by Rasulullah, أربعة لا ترد لهم دعوة. One of them, ورجل يدعو لأخيه المؤمن بظهر الغيب. If a person prays for his Muslim brother, mu'min brother or sister, Allah will say, وَلَكَ مِثْلُهُ, and you shall have the same. Without praying for himself. Even if he doesn't pray for himself. As long as he prays for others, Allah will say, and you shall have the same. Number two, to emphasize on the concept of Islamic brotherhood, we have a law that says it is recommended to accept the invitation to break your fast from a Muslim brother or sister during the day. And of course, not during Ramadan. During the day, if you were fasting, for example, during Rajab and Sha'ban, if you were fasting, if a Muslim brother or sister comes and tells you, let me help you I invite you to break your fast, I invite you over to lunch. The hadith says that you will have more reward if you break your fast than you continue fasting. It's more recommended. In one hadith, you will have the reward of 70 days of fasting because you accepted the invitation of your Muslim brother and sister. Thirdly, we have a hadith that stress on helping our Muslim brothers and sisters. Helping them out. If they have a hajah, if they have a problem, if they have an issue, help them out if you can. In one hadith, من قضى لأخيه المؤمن حاجة اللَّهُ لَهُ أَلْفْ حَاجَةٍ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ إِحْدَاهُنَّ الْجَنَّةِ. That he who fixes an issue or resolves an issue for a Muslim brother, Allah will resolve for him 1,000 issues on the Day of Judgment. One of them being paradise. Yani one of them is paradise, and you have 999 other wishes that Allah will fulfill for you, just because you helped out a Muslim brother or sister. Ahadith stress on إدخال السرور على قلب المؤمن, or الأخ المؤمن. To make your Muslim brother or sister smile, it has a reward. Just to make them smile, this has a reward. Shaking their hands, hugging them, visiting them. If they're ill, visiting them. This all has a reward. Just to establish and emphasize on the concept of Islamic brotherhood. There's a hadith that I'd like to read before I finish. It's a very beautiful hadith. It's mentioned in Bihar al-Anwar. This hadith says that every Muslim has 30 rights on the shoulders of his Muslim brother. I have 30 rights that you have to fulfill for me. And you have 30 rights that I have to fulfill for you. 30 rights. I'm going to read them very quickly. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, and I suggest you take notes. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, لِلْمُسْلِمِ عَلَىٰ أَخِيهِ ثَلَاثُونَ حَقًّا لَا بَرَاءَةَ لَهُ مِنْهَا إِلَّا بِالْأَدَاءِ أَوْ الْعَفْوِ. That these 30 rights, Allah will question us about them. Allah will bring Hajj Marwan on the Day of Judgment and will say, did you fulfill these rights for him? And there's two ways, two options. Either I fulfilled it for him, or Hajj Marwan has to forgive me on the Day of Judgment. We'll say, khalas, I'll let him go. I don't want these 30 rights. Now what are these 30 rights? Number one, يَغْفِرْ زَلَّتَهُ. He forgives him. He doesn't hold a grudge. He forgives him. وَيَرْحَمْ عَبْرَتَهُ. He has mercy on him. وَيَسْتُرْ عَوْرَتَهُ. He covers up for his weakness. وَيُقِيلُ عَثْرَتَهُ. Again, he forgives him. وَيَقْبَلْ مَعْذَرَتَهُ. He accepts his apology. وَيَرَدُّ غَيْبَتَهُ. If he heard someone backbiting against him, he'll say no. He'll defend him. وَيُدِيمُ نَصِيحَتَهُ. He'll continue admonishing him and advising him. وَيَحْفَظْ خِلَّتَهُ. He remains friends with him. He doesn't stop being friends with him. وَيَرْعَى ذِمَّتَهُ. He will see if his friend is in trouble, if he's in need, he'll help him out. وَيَعُودُ مَرَضَهُ. If he's ill, he'll visit him. وَيَشْهَدْ مَيِّتَهُ. If he dies, he'll participate in his funeral ceremony. وَيُجِيبُ دَعْوَتَهُ. He accepts his invitation. وَيَقْبَلْ هَدِيَّتَهُ. He accepts his gift. وَيُكَافِئْ صَلَتَهُ. If his friend contacts him, he'll contact him back. وَيَشْكُرْ نِعْمَتَهُ. If his friend is blessed, if Allah blesses his friend, he'll thank Allah for it, that he blessed his friend. وَيُحْسِنْ نَصْرَتَهُ. And he supports him, he stands by his side. وَيَحْفَظْ حَلِيلَتَهُ. And he doesn't backstab him. He doesn't backstab him. وَيَقْضِي حَاجَتَهُ. He helps him. وَيَشْفَعْ مَسْأَلَتَهُ. If he wanted him to وَيَشْفَعْ مَسْأَلَتَهُ. If you wanted him to speak to someone, to intercede, he'll intercede for his friend. وَيُصْمِتْ عَطْسَتَهُ. When he sneezes, he'll tell him, God bless you. وَيُرْشِدْ ضَالَّتَهُ. If he's lost, he'll show him the way. وَيَرُدَّ سَلَامَهُ. He'll reply to his salam. وَيُطَيِّبْ كَلَامَهُ. He'll speak to him softly. وَيُبِرَّ إِنْعَامَهُ. He's kind to him. وَيُصَدِّقْ أَقْسَامَهُ. If his friend swears on something, he believes him. He won't tell him, no, you're lying. وَيُوَالِي وَلِيَّهُ وَلَا يُعَادِيهِ. And he befriends his friend. He doesn't become enemies with his friend's friend. وَيَنْصُرُهُ ظَالِمًا وَمَظْلُومًا. And he supports him, whether his friend is oppressed or he's an oppressor. How does that work? وَيَنْصُرُهُ ظَالِمًا وَمَظْلُومًا. Supports him, مظلوما, okay. If he supports him because he's oppressed, makes sense. But supports him if he's the oppressor, The hadith continues. فَأَمَّا نُصْرَتُهُ ظَالِمًا فَيَرُدُّهُ عَنْ ظُلْمِهِ. He supports him as an oppressor by stopping him from oppressing. Stopping the oppression from him. وَأَمَّا نُصْرَتُهُ مَظْلُومًا فَيُعِينُهُ عَلَى أَخْذِ حَقِّهِ. And he supports him as oppressed by taking back his right. وَلَا يُسْلِمُهُ وَلَا يَخْذُلَهُ. He never deceives him. He never neglects him. وَيُحِبُّ لَهُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ مَا يُحِبُّ لِنَفْسِهِ. And he loves for his Muslim brother what he loves for himself. وَيَكْرَهْ لَهُ مِنَ الشَّرِّ مَا يَكْرَهْ لِنَفْسِهِ. And he hates for him what he hates for himself. صلى على محمد وآل محمد. These are 30 rights. How many of us perform these rights? How many of us even pay attention to these rights? How many of us even know about these rights? Well, from today, inshallah, we know about these rights. I conclude with this, my dear brothers and sisters. On the 12th day of Ramadan, year 2 after Hijrah, is known as Yawm al-Mu'akhat, the day of brotherhood. Rasulullah stood in front of his companions and he said, Ta'akhu fillah akhawain, become brothers. And he appointed their brothers. He took Abu Bakr and he made him the brother of Kharija ibn Zuhair. And I said, each person from the Muhajirin became a brother from the Ansar. Abu Bakr became the brother of Kharija ibn Zuhair. Umar ibn al-Khattab became the brother of Aitan ibn Malik. Abi Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah became the brother of Sa'd ibn Ma'ad. Rasulullah made all of the companions brothers, except one was remaining. Who was that? Ali ibn Abi Talib, salamullahi alayhi. Amir al-Mu'mineen came to Rasulullah. He was crying. He said, Ya Rasulullah, you made all companions brothers, but you left me without a brother. Rasulullah smiled. He said, Anta akhi fi dunya wal akhirah. Innama ma akhartuka illa li nafsi. Ya Ali ibn Abi Talib, I delayed you because you're my brother. You think I'm going to make you a brother of one of the companions? No, the reason why I delayed you is because you are my brother. You're my brother in this life and in the next life. Anta Allahumma salli. أنت أخي في الدنيا والآخرة ما أخرتك إلا لنفسي فأنت مني بمنزلة هارون من موسى إلا أنه لا نبي بعدي. You are to me like Aaron was to Moses, except there is no prophet after me. And this brotherhood did not occur from year 2, the 12th day of Ramadan. This brotherhood occurred from the first day of revelation, the first year of revelation, when Rasulullah was ordered to invite all of his family members, وَأَنذَرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, his immediate family members. He gave them a speech, and then he said, who will stand by my side to become my brother and my helper and my successor after me? 10-year-old Imam Ali alayhi salam raised his hand. Rasulullah took his hand and he said, إِنَّ هَذَا أَخِي وَوَصِيِّي وَخَلِيفَتِي فِيكُمْ فَأَسْمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَطِيعُوهُ. This is my brother, my helper and my successor after me, so listen to him and obey him. Some people, they came to Abu Talib, they told him, Ya Abu Talib, look at your nephew Rasulullah, look at your nephew Muhammad. He made your son your khalifa, your son your leader. Abu Talib said, yes, and I accept that. I accept for my son to be my imam. Imam Ali alayhi salam was quoted saying, Ana Abdullah wa akhu Rasulullah. I am the servant of Allah and the brother of Rasulullah. Wa ana as-siddiq al-akbar la yaquluha ba'di illa kadhab. And I am the greatest Siddiq. Siddiq meaning the one who believes, because Amir al-Mu'mineen was the first person who believed in Rasulullah. And anyone who claims to have this title after me is a liar. And there were some that claimed to have this title after Amir al-Mu'mineen. And you could tell what they are from Imam Ali alayhi salam. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us as followers of Imam Ali, to grant us his intercession, and to grant us the ziyarah of his grave in Al-Najaf al-Ashraf. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi al-Tahirin.